Father, we just thank you, God, for this day. Ask you, God, that you would continue to bless us and keep us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, we said, brother, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Happy belated.
Yes, indeed. We hope you had a Merry Christmas too. And thank you indeed for that prayer, Bishop. We really appreciate that. We need it every day. Every day we rise is a great day to be alive. And welcome to the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And I'm here with our host, co-host, Leah Drake Stitt, Thomas the Colonel Chapman, and yours truly, James Slim Overton. Good morning, co-host.
Good morning, James and Chapman.
Yeah, good morning to both of you. Yes.
Yeah. How you doing? Well, I trust we all had a great day with family, or either virtually or physically. You know, we live in times where, you know, we just have to be careful.
That's true.
My family is in Atlanta. I talked to my daughter and granddaughter, but not physically, but one day, you know, I hope she's not in high school. She's 3 now. Hope she's not in high school by the time we get together. But anyway, we're here this morning and for another show. And this is actually the last show of 2021. What a great year we've had and even greater guests on our show, spreading information of interest to our communities, the Hampton Roads, and the whole country. So as we go in out this year, we're going to ask you to please continue to support and watch and be with us during the next year, 2022, when I'm sure it's going to be just as great as 2021 and probably even greater with the subjects that we bring before you. But anyway, let's get to the point, the reason why we're here today. And we have a special guest with us, Attorney Alana Glover. Glover. I think it's every time. I think I'm the resident mess up your name, even though I know. Of course, Attorney Alana Glover.
All right.
James, I think you had too much Christmas, really.
Not enough coffee, I guess. But anyway, Alana Glover is here, and no, she's not related to Danny Glover. She's the daughter of Shannon and Paula Glover. And of course, Shannon is the mayor of the city of Portsmouth. But today, this is all about you. Anyway, she is born here in Portsmouth and raised in Suffolk. And she attended Kingsford High School, one of I.C. Norton's rivals, and attended Virginia Commonwealth University, where she majored in criminal justice and African-American studies. Nice combination there. And, also, she graduated from the University of Baltimore School of Law, and she's now an attorney and is an associate with Goldberg and Segalla. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you got it right.
Segalla in Baltimore, Maryland. And we are pleased to have her with us here today. Good morning, Attorney Glover.
Very good, James.
Good morning.
Yeah, I had to slow walk it out.
Slow walk that.
Oh, and let me mention too, she's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And like to mention that because you'll find out later in the program how active Attorney Glover is and how active her chapter in Baltimore or in Maryland is as far as community service. So we always like to mention members of the Divine Nine because it's a group of sororities and fraternities that are pledged, you know, even after college, to community service and community work. So had to mention that, get that out there for your soul.
And James, and before we get started with Alana, I think it's fitting that we should mention that Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu, who was the voice to slay apartheid, died at the age of 90. And we need to remember him during this time as he gave a lot on behalf of the people of South Africa. And also, we never mentioned the longtime Palette editor, Virginia Palette editor, Att'y Jordan, also at the age of 90, has passed. So let us remember those who have gone on and keep their legacy alive. So just felt that we needed to do that on this morning.
Yes, I think, and Att'y Jordan, I think everybody in Portsmouth knew her, especially he goes way back, and she would cover stories back during a time where it wasn't really popular for the white media to cover certain stories. Of course, we had the journaling guide, but she would be right there sitting beside a member of the journaling guide in different organizational meetings that weren't necessarily covered by the mainstream media. So we really gonna miss her commentary, whether you agree with her sometimes or not.
Exactly.
She always was all the way up. And I can remember her coming to council meetings as maybe 2019, they rolling her in the wheelchair. She was still coming, not officially, but she was still coming to council meetings and outspoken. So thanks for mentioning that, Leah. Appreciate that. And Damon Tutu, Archbishop Damon Tutu.
Yes, indeed.
But you get people that they get to the age of 90, they have really made an impact on the world and many people's lives. So, you know, we all should wish to enjoy that kind of longevity.
Exactly. And to be able to offer as much as they offered during the times in which they walked this ground. So
in that lifetime, yes, indeed.
Right.
Yes.
But,
you know, Mike, before we start, Slim,
go ahead.
Get the disclaimer out, because the views listed on or said on this program are those of the host and the guests and not of the radio station. And so now we can go ahead, just get that disclaimer out of the way.
Yeah, get it out, because I know you coming, Colonel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's
we
all
just
good.
Colonel is you know, what the young people say, get it real.
Keep it real. Keep it real.
Keep it real. Okay.
Keep it real.
Our generational keeping it real guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have him. We're definitely lucky to have him. But let me get back to you, Attorney Glover. And I just want you to start off, you know, I don't know, a lot of kids growing up, their interest in whatever they turn out to be starts real early. How early, what got you interested, or what was your motivation to go in the field of law? Because at some point it had to be your focus.
Yeah, I think at a very young age, you know, I always like to talk. I think that was something that I always, you know, whether good or bad, that was something that was on every note to my parents, ranging from middle school. So I think in middle school, that's when I learned the concept of what a lawyer was, right? And I became interested in becoming a lawyer. I told everybody I was going to be a lawyer. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I said, hey, I'm going to be a lawyer. So, you know, as a first generation, you know, law student, you know, I'm the first one in my family to go to law school and have that experience. I didn't necessarily know how to get to law school. I didn't really know what the process was. I didn't know, you know, how someone becomes a lawyer. So really when I got to VCU, and yes, I double major in criminal justice and African-American studies, and also political science and homeland security. So when I was learning about African-American history, I learned about, you know, these amazing Black attorneys of the past, to be honest, you know, learning about Thurgood Marshall, learning about different attorneys that really pushed different laws and really used the law to help change future situations, to help undo, you know, segregation and help undo things that really affected the Black community. And that's what really pushed me that I have to go to law school. And then from there, you know, I talked to advisors and mentors about the process to applying to law school and just kind of what that experience would be like for me.
You know, it was so important to be involved in the African-American studies and learning all you could, which made it so significant when you were sworn in, to be sworn in the library of Justice Thurgood Marshall.
Yes.
It made that very significant to you because you knew the history.
Yes, yes. And here in Maryland, we have a book that we get to sign. I didn't get to sign it yet because of COVID, of course. But it's actually Thurgood Marshall signed the book. So it's like when you become an attorney, you get to sign that same book. And it is significant, you know, for people who paved the way, you know, people, if it wasn't for Thurgood Marshall, it wasn't for, you know, Constance Baker Motley, like other, you know, attorneys who paved the way for me, I would have never been able to be where I am. So it was definitely a great experience to have. And I was honored to, like you said, be able to sworn in into a library named after Thurgood Marshall.
And one more question, go back to when you were in law school, and we talked about earlier how taxing it is for a law school student and how focused you have to be and your concentration has to be it has to be tight. But you were very active during your law school days, the 3 years you were there. And how did you fit all that activity you in? And name some of the things you were doing, especially with the law review, being a part of the law review.
Yeah, so law school is a lot, you know, we talk about that a lot. Anytime anyone asks me about going to law school, I try to be very honest with them. You know, it's going to be a time where you're going to have to make sacrifices. You know, I focused on my studies, but you have to miss birthdays sometimes. You may have to miss attending certain social events and things like that because, you know, this is a time, like you said, that's very demanding. And your schoolwork is just as important as all the activities that you're involved in. So I was a very busy lady. Those 3 years, I was doing a lot of running around. In addition to my schoolwork, I worked the entire time I was in law school. I helped to pay my way through law school. So I held a job. And in addition to that, I was a member of the law review. So I was, it was only 2 of us, which is something we're still working on, 2 Black students on the entire law review in our class. And we were working on the law review to increase diversity there. And then on my 2nd year of law review, I became the only Black student to become a member of the editorial board as the symposium editor. So in that position, I was able to organize a symposium called 400 Years Slavery in the Criminal Justice System. We held that in 2019, pre-COVID, but we did that to honor 1619 Project and kind of discuss the, you know, ties from slavery to the criminal justice system. In addition to that, I was a student attorney in the Innocence Project Clinic. I was the director of community service for the Black Law Students Association. I was very involved in different organizations. We have student bar association, things like that. So like I said, it was a lot, but it was worth it. I've always been the type of person that, you know, I love studying, I love the schoolwork, but I think interacting with my peers and really wanting to do the work is something that I was passionate about. You know, academics are important. Learning how to study the law, interpret the law is important, but also being able to actually do the work is important as well. So when I was in law school, I tried to make sure I maintained that balance.
Now, Alana, wait a minute, James, Alana, for those who may not know, explain to them what the Innocence Project is.
So the Innocence Project is a nationwide initiative, but at our law school, we had a clinic there. So what we do is we basically research claims made by people that are currently incarcerated to prove their innocence. So as a member of the Innocence Project, we had a couple cases that went through where we actually exonerated people, some people who had brothers. There was one case that were brothers who had spent over 25 years in prison for a crime that we later found out that they did not do. So what we do is basically we take all claims of innocence that, you know, people submit to us and we research them, we litigate the case on their behalf, and we work with those clients to, you know, possibly get an exoneration and get them freed from prison. So that's
very good.
What we do.
Yes, thank you. James, I'm sorry. You were saying something when I asked the question.
That was a good question. I just was going to add how important it is with the law review, and you said it was just 2 Blacks, and it kind of mirrors what President Obama did when he was in law school, becoming the first president of the law review in the Ivy League school. So that's an important part of your law school experience. And you know, and the last thing, what is, not the last question because I'll be back, but what is, now you're an attorney now, but you're a part of a Collective 365, which like that's a community effort that attorneys are involved in. Talk about that.
That's a great organization. There's actually woman, her name's Fatima Smith. She's based in Richmond right now, who started the organization amongst other founders. But basically what it does, it gets young people together, or really anybody that really wants to give back to communities of color. It gets them to come together. It's almost like a giving circle in a sense, but we all encourage people to invest in a collective 365. They can become board members. They can just make money if they like to. And basically what we do is we offer grants to different organizations that are doing work directed towards communities of color. And we do that for any type of organizations based in Virginia, Maryland, or DC. So it's an initiative that's specifically focused on that, specifically focused on us, as a community, whether it be, Black people, it can be Latino people, different communities of color coming together to then give back to our communities, because we wanted to create an organization that supports their own, essentially. So we want, these organizations to keep doing the great work that they're doing in communities of color. And of course, there's a lot of times disparities as it comes to them being able to get funding from different grant opportunities and things like that. So the whole initiative is focused around changing that narrative and focused on being able to give those funds to those organizations so they can keep doing the work.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a question for you. So, you said you went through criminal justice as a major. And I talk to a lot of young folks that are doing the same major, and you're talking about work. And I understand law school is a lot of work, but what thing would hit me is when I talk to all these kids out here that doing criminal justice, and they don't have an endpoint or goal to get to where they want to go. And then I try to explain to them, law school, or either or being a police or whatever, is a natural subway for that major. And so I'm glad you decided to do the natural progression from criminal justice major to law school. So I commend you on that. So, but do you see higher education as a lawyer? Because, we talk, a lot of times we don't talk about, after I got my JD, that is a terminal degree, but there are master's programs for, and PhD programs for lawyers. Have you thought about that too?
About it, like I said, after graduating, I graduated in 2020 in the heart of COVID. So after graduating, I was like, I think I need a little break from going back to school, but I'm not totally against it. A lot of schools have, like you said, they have LLM programs, which are basically Masters of Laws programs, which some people go back and get after their JD. And I also could go and get a PhD if that's something that I would be interested in. I'm not totally against it. I think that's something, I would look to in the future. We were just talking about earlier. One of my biggest regrets is that I didn't attend a HBCU in my education experience. And I think that I feel pretty confident if I was ever to go back, that I would definitely be geared towards attending an HBCU to either get my, PhD or my LLM in some sense, because I think that would be an important experience for me to have.
Well,
go ahead, go ahead, Colonel.
Well, you mentioned that, you out in the heart of Baltimore, and we were talking earlier about the late Elijah Cummings, and I look at the legacy of Thurgood Marshall, and since you're out in Baltimore, and it brings me to the cancel culture that we're seeing now across America from white America. And since you're fresh out of here and talking about law school, tell us about, was that a hard course for CRT training? What is that? What is this CRT stuff that that inspired white America to rise up and to make sure that their kids aren't living next door or talking to Black folks? What is that?
Well, I think a lot of people have a misconception of what critical race theory is. So in law school, of course, I took, and a lot of my classmates took, was critical legal theory, and it did critical race theory. It talked about, so we talked about race, gender, socioeconomics, and how those things tied into the law. And I think it's very important to specifically discuss critical race theory and discuss Black history. One thing that I want to do in the future is to raise money. I'm in the process of starting a nonprofit now to give scholarships to students who want to major in Black history or African American studies, because it was so telling in law school during that class. We were learning about basic things that happened in civil rights. We didn't really go too in depth. We touched on how certain things involving race tied into the law. But a lot of my classmates, some of them, Black African American, and some of them not. It was their first time ever hearing some of those things.
Yeah.
And we're just learning about, how kids were separated at schools and how some of the laws were directed towards, harming African Americans and Black people in this country. And I think it was very troubling to think, someone can go through 12 years of public, our elementary to high school, they can go get their undergraduate degree. And it's not until they get to law school and they take an optional course that they're just now hearing about things that happened in the civil rights movement.
That's right.
Just a little problematic, because when we talk about the future, in order for us to move past those things in the past, we have to recognize them and acknowledge them and identify them so that we can move forward. I think a lot of people that are concerned about critical race theory, it's more of a topic where it's, trying to make certain people feel bad or, trying to put one against the other. And that's really not the truth. It's a history that's true. It's teaching this truth history that has not been included in our books for years, and I think it's really doing a disservice to the community as a whole, because whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, knowing that history only makes you, a better evolved person.
Exactly.
And these are mistakes of the past, and these are what we want to do, as a community, not to repeat these mistakes, number one, and then what we want to do to, fix these mistakes, right? Make something whole that hadn't been whole for so long because of these past. So, I don't know where people get really concerned about it. But, I think it's not all that certain people think it to be.
And the thing is, people tend not to want to know the truth. And that's part of the problem there, so it's important that we learn the truth. And as you say, it's a shame that our children don't get that information in school. They get it February for 4 weeks. And if they get anything, then it's a plus, because that's often cut short as well. But as you're talking about this link in the Black community, I want you to share with us your involvement in the link between the ballot and the courtroom for Black people.
Yeah, so my involvement, I helped to write an article. There was a young gentleman who, he's amazing. His name is Evan Marlborough, and he's out in Atlanta right now. And he actually started the Youth Poll Worker Project. So there he was encouraging youth in the area to start working polls, especially during COVID. As I'm sure you all heard in the news and everything, there was a large shortage of poll workers because a lot of times, our elders have worked the polls, and during COVID, because of the health risks, a lot of them were unable to work the polls. So he took on his initiative in Atlanta to ensure that more youth, and I think he got thousands of youth to volunteer to do poll worker projects there. But kind of what I helped him with and what we talked about is the importance of Black people and people of color serving on juries, and kind of really, talking about a lot of the thoughts we have around it. I think a lot of times when we talked about jury service, everybody's like, I don't want to serve on a jury, or, people joke about getting out of jury service or not want to do it, but just talking about the importance of serving on a jury, and talking about, yes, it's important to vote, right? And you have to be a registered voter to serve on a jury. But in addition to your civic duty, not just voting, right, on election day, serving on a jury is also a part of your civic duty. And I talk about some of these cases that we've had in national news lately. A lot of those outcomes that may have came out in a favor that we wanted to see was because the jury was diverse, or we may have been a little open-minded, because at the end of the day, in a jury trial, the jury's the one who makes the decision. And I think if we don't take on that civic duty as well, some of the outcomes of these very important cases that affect people's livelihoods could come out in a way that's not favorable, to our communities, if we don't take on that initiative and make sure we serve in that way.
that's a good point, because one, when we go before we'll go into the justice system, and then we ask to have a jury trial, I'd like to have more people that look like me that may understand what came up and what happened during this, and so I can explain the injustice that got me here. And the other side does not recognize that, and that's part of the longitudinal dumbing down of the educational system that we've had in America. That when we go back to CRT training, if I can erase that past, then I don't have to address it in the future. And it's another way of maintaining the power of the status quo, so I can still maintain power. And so, and all these issues that you're saying that you have with that folks out there, like the poll watchers in the state of Georgia, that is something that we are going to need, because if you're watching the news, state of Georgia and or looking to overthrow elections in the future, and we have to maintain and educate ourselves that our democracy is at stake, and somebody has to do the civic duty to stand up and say no. Thurgood Marshall, that you said, stood up and says he said no, and we're going to do it through the legal system. And so as you would as an attorney, an aspiring leader for the future, as I look at you, are you thinking about going into politics and trying to correct some of the injustices here?
I don't know if that's what God has called over my life, is to go into politics. I definitely feel that politics is very important, and I understand that the role that politics plays in making a difference, making systemic change, and I understand, the role that politicians play to the community. I think that the role that they play is very important. But I think everybody has different roles, that they have to play. I think you have to have the politicians that are focused on implementing this change. You have to have the attorneys who are litigating these cases in court. You have to have the people in the community, right? Like the activists who are, in the community, seeing what the needs of the community are, who are working on behalf of the community every day, and working with the politicians and working with the litigators and working, with the judges and the different parts. I think that we need people in every part of the system, right? Not just in one part. And you can't make systemic change if you don't have everybody spread out.
Exactly.
Right? To really implement these initiatives and these changes that we want to see. So I would say right now, I think that's the calling in my heart. But like I said, I respect politicians so much. I respect the work that they do, and I always am out there supporting politicians. I've worked on different campaigns. So that's what I definitely plan to do in the future.
Good point. Slim, you want to talk about we're getting ready to transition here.
Yes, thank you, Colonel. Yes, we're getting ready to leave the radio, but we will continue on Facebook Live. And I want to say that Denzel Glover is watching. Denzel is Anna's brother.
Yes.
So I forgot to mention that, the father of her niece and nephew.
Yes.
But,
The cute twins.
Yes, the famous niece and nephew. Yes.
Yes, indeed. All over downtown Portsmouth.
True.
We talk about campaigning.
No, they campaign for their grandfather.
Anyway, I want to thank all the listeners on WGPL 1350 AM on your radio dial. And as we end this year, we hope you continue. We will continue to be associated with the Christian Broadcasting Company and WGPL 1350 AM on your radio dial. We appreciate your support this past year, and we also will appreciate your continuous support the year coming up. But I want to say this, and of course, we're here with Attorney Alana Glover. Attorney. And I want to say we had a few people. We had one watcher or listener, Antoinette Hayes, that wanted to be a part of this, wanted to come on. Antoinette, thank you for watching and wanted to be a part of this, but We're not doing that yet, but into the new year, we'll be trying some different things and probably looking forward to having more audience participation. We also had my friend, Mr. Scott, one of my Virginia Union buddies, wanted to know the number so he could call in. And we support each other. We have a sports station down in Richmond where he covers Virginia Union football, where I've called in a few times. But anyway, Scott, we're working on that too. I'm trying to figure out how we can have participation from our audience. I think that's important. But keep on putting your questions on the live feed, and we'll try to pass them on. And speaking of that, Antoinette Chapman, who is close to one of our co-hosts, wife, asked a question about what would you tell aspiring students how to prepare for law school or a career in law? Because even if a lot of people go to law school and get that JD and take it and use it in different areas other than as far as being an attorney, teaching, or they just use that even in community work. So what would you tell an aspiring students, or if you were talking to a bunch of high school students, how to really prepare to be ready for that rigorous law school journey?
I would say start early. I think that, like you said, you never really know, what you want to do. It may take people a little longer to get there, but I think when you kind of have a good sense that I really want to go to law school, start early, seek mentorship. Mentorship has been so important for me. Like I said, I'm a first generation law student. I definitely didn't have all the answers, and I've had so many professors. I've had attorneys that I've worked for. I've had judges, who have really took me under their wing and really told me, go this way, don't go this way, consider this. And, sometimes you have mentors and all the advice doesn't apply. Okay. Like sometimes you have some advice and you say, this might not fit my situation, but it's so helpful to learn from people and to be open to taking advice from people who've done it before, and just having that respect for people who really did it, who may have had 20 years of experience on us. They really do have a lot of information to give you as someone who's interested in pursuing the field, of course. So I would say start early. You can start early as high school. If you're an undergrad, seek out undergrad programs that have a pre-law focus. Seek out scholarships. One thing at the University of Baltimore, my mentor, Professor Higginbotham, he started a program called the Fannie Angelos program. And with that program, if you attended at HBCU in Maryland, you can get full tuition to go to law school. They pay tuition, you get mentors. And that's like, to be able to go to law school for free, that's really life-changing. You can really be able to change. If you're a first generation, you can change the whole outlook, of your family and of the opportunities that you'll have open to you. So definitely look into scholarship programs, look into what different schools have to offer. And like I said, start early. And the last thing I would say is don't be scared just to reach out to people. I think a lot of times when you're younger, you might see someone that you look up to and be a little nervous to contact them. But, the worst thing that anybody can tell you is no. So always, reach out to people, try to make those connections. And then, when you get to law school, stay focused, stay focused on the goal, despite whatever may be happening around you.
And be ready to do a lot of reading.
Yeah, a lot of reading.
That's true.
Can't not be a reader, go into law. I mean, that's imperative. That's important because you have to do research to properly represent your clients. You have to make sure you study that case law and be prepared. So a lot of reading is important. So if you're not an avid reader or you don't enjoy reading, you might want to.
Yeah, maybe consider some other things, but always try it, I think.
Alana, share with us the JD Writers in Residence program and also some information on the series you published.
Yes, part of Miss JD Writers in Residence program, Miss JD is a national nonprofit that focus on the success of women attorneys throughout the nation. In law school, I was actually chosen as a Miss JD Fellow. So I was one of 10 nationwide chosen to serve as a fellow. So I did that in law school. And then after law school, I became a writer in residence. So there I am writing a series. I've been publishing a couple articles, and the series is entitled The Road Less Traveled. And that series to me was very important to be able to talk to people like me, or women like me specifically, first generation law students, women of color specifically, because our experience is a little different. And others' experience. That's just the truth, So I think it's important for me to write a piece that, like I said, women like me, women of color, first generation students can read and connect to and talk about different issues that, affect us specifically. So that's what those pieces have been about, whether it's from talking about, my experience that I've had and trying to encourage young women who may go through the same experience, or just kind of sharing resources and information that they may need through law school. So that's kind of what that series has been focused on thus far.
And tell those young women out there who may want to review some of your writings, where would they go in order to read these writings?
So you can go to Miss JD's blog. You can Google Miss JD's blog. You can Google Miss JD Writers in Residence, and that series will pop up. It's available to everyone. Miss JD also has a community that young women can join. And then lawyers connect with you virtually. They offer a lot of pre-law resources, a lot of free resources that can really help you be successful in law school. So go to the website. All of that information is free to you. And definitely, use it so that they can be successful if they really are considering pursuing law.
Very good.
Yes. I got one question for you, though. Actually, this is a series of questions since I've been breaking in. So what is a good LSAT score, for one, to get into law school? And then what type of law do you do in your law firm? And how much as a young lawyer do you get how many court time?
Okay. Yes. So I think a good LSAT score that you should aim for is maybe a 160, 165. The highest you can get is around a 180. But I will also say to people, don't be discouraged if you don't get an LSAT score, ranging around that numbers. That LSAT score is a part of the consideration. Law schools, they really consider your grades, they're going to consider your LSAT score. And also, when I mentioned earlier, mentorship, recommendation letters and who can make a big difference in your law application process. If you have a relationship with somebody who went to that school, who that's their alma mater, and they write a letter for you, or they can just make a call. For example, I'm at University of Baltimore. I sit on the alumni board. I have a lot of relationships there. And a lot of times you can just call someone, and say like, hey, there's a student that's really interested in the school. Can I set up a visit, for them to come visit some professors, things like that. So your LSAT score is important. I would shoot for 160, 165 average or higher. But if you don't get that, I wouldn't be disheartened. I would still pursue law school if you're really interested. For the law I practice, so right now, I'm at Goldberg Segalla. We practice mostly corporate law. So I practice general liability, product liability. We do a lot of basically, they're commercial type cases, civil cases generally. So if there's anything with a slip and fall, an issue with a product, and a suit comes, we're the ones defending that. And I will say we're a defense firm, of course. So we do defense work rather than plaintiff's work, who are the people bringing the claims. Most of the work that I do right now as a young attorney, typically unless you go to a state's attorney or Commonwealth's attorney's office or either the public defender's office, you're not in the courtroom every single day. So I'm lucky in the fact that my law firm is a great firm. It's a new office here in Baltimore. So we have a lot of young attorneys that are heading up the office. So I have been able to file pleadings. I have been able to, make court appearances as I just got barred earlier this year. So that's not the reality for everybody. That's been the reality for me. And I'm lucky in that regard, but I have been able to get that experience. And I also I do a lot of pro bono work. So I serve as a pro bono fellow here in Maryland, and I represent people in rent cases. So that's in district court. And I represent people, in those cases. That's usually when it's a landlord tenant matter. And I represent tenants who may be at risk for, being removed from their home. They may have back rent that's due, so I really represent the tenants to try to work something out with the landlord, or at least help the tenant keep their home, so that they're not evicted and they have nowhere to stay. So I've been able to get a little court experience. I got some ways to go, and I'm excited. I'm excited to keep getting that experience, but I have been lucky to, as a very fairly new attorney, being able to get some experience in the courtroom.
And Alana, you're also a community grants reviewer with the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement. Could you share with us some information on being a reviewer?
Yes. So I am actually doing, I'm doing community grant reviewer, and I'm focusing on reentry programs.
Good.
So
I love that. Yes.
which is exciting, but basically here in Baltimore City, what the mayor's office chose to do was put funds specifically aside for community organizations. And it's a great program. They actually have people that work under the city's office there that will also help the community programs, write the grants. They teach them grant writing. They teach them how they apply for grants. And then what we do as a community grant reviewer, when they apply, we review, the grant writing that they've done. We make decisions on whether or not we're going to award funds, and then we make decisions on the amount of funds that they're awarded. So it's a really good program, and I'm not the only one. They have different people throughout the city of Baltimore. I live in one area of Baltimore, but they try to make sure that every area of Baltimore is represented. So everybody, voice is kind of heard, because every section of Baltimore, I'm sure, like the city of Portsmouth, is not the same.
Right.
Some communities may have a little different needs than other communities. So it's a good opportunity. I think Mayor Scott, that's the mayor here in Baltimore, I think he's doing a great job. He definitely, young mayor, he got a long way to go. He has, 3 more years as well. But he's doing a lot of good things. And I really like that program. And I'm glad to be a part of that program that, based on my experience, I can focus on reentry programs and focus on making sure that, okay, people that are coming back in the system have what they need. And we're funding those community programs through the city of Baltimore so that they can have the funding to do the work. So it's a good program. I'm glad.
Yeah, reentry is close to my heart because I'm working with the sheriff's office, and he has established a reentry program here as well, but COVID has kind of kept us has moved us back a little bit, but we're still working with the individuals who are housed in his jail to make sure that they have a safe transition and a good transition from the jail back into society. So I'm just so happy to hear that you're working on that project. It means a lot to me, and I'm thankful for what you're doing for it as well. Mm-hmm. And also, let me just say one thing. Other thing is that not only are you involved in Baltimore, but you come back home to give back to your city. You were involved in the Give Back Mercy Drops event recently. Why don't you share something with us, how you come back home and give back as well?
Yes, that was an event that we scheduled or we organized this year. It was the first year, but I'm hoping to make it an annual event. I think I briefly spoke before we got online. This year, both my grandparents actually passed away this year. They were both, in their 90s, and they lived a long life. I think with COVID, a lot of us have lost family members.
Exactly.
Deal with health issues or have been, directly affected by COVID. So, but both of my grandparents were very much so servers. Like my grandma, she was in a church for years, and all she did was feed people. That's all she. And my grandfather, he was really a male figure in my life that really taught me, commitment and dedication. And one thing anybody that knew my grandfather ever said about him is when he said he was going to do something, he did it. You never had to guess, oh, is he going to show up? If he said he's going to show up, no. Like he showed up for his community, and he showed up for his people. And I really wanted to do something, give back to Portsmouth, and to honor them, and to hopefully do that every year. So yes, this year we partnered with Mercy Drops and Roger Brown's, and we were able to deliver cold turkeys, and we were able to deliver like Thanksgiving sides and also hot meals. We went to Dale's home, Swanson homes. We went to some elder facilities throughout the city of Portsmouth. And it was just really nice to give back, and it was so nice to just be in a community and really just get to talk to people. And I think amidst COVID, a lot of times we missed that, and I think so many people were so happy come to their door, and we were social distanced and we had the mask and everything. But, I think especially during COVID, it's been so much isolation, haven't felt that connectedness, and for us to be able to do that, and we all came together. Mercy Drops does service, year round. They go into those communities, but to be able to partner with them, and we raise the funds and we put the money behind it to feed those families was something that, I was very proud to do. And like I said, I'm hoping we did it once this year. We didn't have as much time to make it as big as maybe we wanted to. We fed over 200 families, but I definitely think there's more that we can do. And I'm hoping that this will be a yearly thing. Every year we get more people involved, it gets bigger. And I just want to continue to service the community. I think it's such a good experience to be able to give back to somebody else, and to be able to connect with somebody else and genuinely just let them know that you care about them, and you want to do something for them with I don't want anything from you. I just want to be able to do something that, make people feel, cared for, especially during the holiday season.
Wonderful. And thank you for giving back and coming back home, and giving back. That's most important. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, I definitely will continue to do that. I love Portsmouth, I love my Baltimore experience as well, but I also, Portsmouth is always gonna be my home. That's where I was born, so I definitely will always have a love for
right. And and I know as the fellows are contemplating their next question, because I see the minds are just roving all over the place. I noticed that you also said that you are I see the plants behind you. And you are plant mom, and you love to travel. And those are two things that I love as well.
Yes, I am a plant mom. I got some plants. I got a lot of plants, but I'm not going to show them all to you right now. Yes, I love to travel. It started off in undergrad. I studied abroad in Barbados, and I studied the African diaspora from the Caribbean perspective. And I had such an amazing experience. Barbados is, I encourage everyone to go.
Barbados is magnificent. You need say no more.
Yes, I'm definitely an advocate, a supporter of Barbados alongside Rihanna. So I encourage everyone, if you're ever able to go, definitely take a trip to Barbados.
Exactly. Beautiful country, beautiful people.
Yes.
Great place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. While since Leah talked about the boys,
Alana, let me tell you, they usually go at it like this. So I got to get my time in when I can get it in. Okay.
Look, I understand. You got to get it when you can.
I got to get it in. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know what? I have followed your mayor there in Baltimore, and I think he's a young, dynamic leader and well needed in your city. And I look at the politics of your of the state, and I see that Governor Hogan is running for re-election again.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going to be taunting all his accomplishments and how he stood up reportedly to the last Don that we had in the White House. Notice I said Don.
Yeah.
So, but I know that as part of the governorship, he elects or he can appoint judges. Mm-hmm. They're state judges. Yes. So I think you're saying you're around 28, 29 or getting there. Mm-hmm. And then so when can we consider or the average age of somebody appointing you, somebody like you, that looks like you with the portfolio that you're gaining to a judgeship either on the state or in the federal level?
Yeah, well, at the state level, so currently I sit on a judicial nominating committee for Baltimore. We have the Alliance of Black Women Attorneys, which is a bar association of Black female attorneys throughout the state of Maryland. So basically what we do, there's a process in Maryland. Virginia is a little different, but basically usually somebody applies to become a judge. And then they interview with different bar associations, such as my bar association, and we ask them questions, focused on what are the important points to our bar association are. And then, we send our recommendation to the governor makes the decision, then it goes from there. It's not necessarily a limit of, oh, you have to be this age or you have to serve this many years. Mm-hmm. Of course, a lot of members of the bar, because really the members of the bar, the other attorneys are really who are going to support, your appointment to a judgeship. of course you want to have experience. You know, I think I would not want to be in a judgeship unless I felt prepared and ready to proceed over, you know, certain judicial proceedings. So I think commonly, usually people have about 10 or 15 years of experience, you know, either practicing or doing some type of legal work, because you want to go in prepared. You know, some people do, they might start a little earlier, but a lot of people want to get that groundwork of experience and have civil and criminal and things like that. So I think I got a little time until I reach that mark. If that's something that I consider, like I said, people, you apply, the governor makes the ultimate decision on who gets appointed. And then very similar to the federal, usually there's an opening on the federal bench, you would apply, then you have to go, you know, be nominated, and then you have to go through your hearings and also ultimately get through the Senate would have to approve you, and then you would get appointed to the federal bench. So I think I got a little time, you know, I can't say when the day is or when will be my time to be considered for the bench, but I think right now, I'm definitely enjoying the experience. You know, I'm trying to be the best attorney that I can be. You know, I have so much work that I want to do. I'm really early in my career, you know, to be honest, like, and there's so, like, I feel like I've done a lot, but I feel like there's so much more that can be done. And I think one day when or if I'm ever ready to, you know, go to the bench, I want to make sure that I've done a lot of the work that I've wanted to do as an attorney, to be able to litigate on behalf of clients and be able to address different issues. Because also once you're a judge, that's a little different. You can't, you know what I'm saying? As a judge, you can't do the same things you could do as an attorney. You're more presiding over rather than being the advocate on behalf of. So I think that I got a lot of work to do, but maybe one day in the future.
But Alana, to follow up on what the Colonel said, apparently on the federal system, you don't have to have that experience because they have appointed a number of judges recently who've had no courtroom experience at all.
But that was during the last administration.
Yeah.
Make that perfectly clear. Some of them have been graded by the ABA, American Bar Association, as not qualified.
They're not qualified, but they appointed them anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, like he said, that was during the previous administration.
Yes.
Different things were going on during this time.
Indeed.
But normally you would want somebody to have a little experience.
And you would definitely want someone with experience to serve on the bench. That's for sure.
Yes. So I don't know what they were doing then, but
no, it's a little different now. It's a little different now.
Yes.
But as we look at that though, so in the state of Maryland, and we're talking about Governor Hogan, what is the percentage of people of color, minorities and women that he's appointing, putting to the bar, to the judgeships there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it may be around, and I don't want to misquote, maybe around 30%, but I would say recently, interestingly enough, we did have some openings for the Court of Appeals here in Maryland, which is the highest court of the state. And Governor Hogan did announce that he was opening up the process because he wanted more diverse candidates for that position. So that's what he's chosen to do. So then we had, more diverse candidates be able to apply to that position. But really in Maryland too, I think a lot of what we see is, we do it similar to how you do it in Virginia. We have, jurisdictions, of course. So in Baltimore City, our bench is pretty diverse, I'll be honest. Like I have one of my line sisters just became a judge last year in 2020, and a couple members of my chapter are actually judges here in Baltimore. So Baltimore is pretty diverse. Every county does not look like Baltimore City. Baltimore City is pretty diverse. I think we have a good, balance of women of color and men of color on the bench in Baltimore City. But of course, you want to diversify that. What they're trying to do is the higher courts, the appellate courts still need, they're still lacking diversity. And that's something that really needs to be worked on. And we'll see, the percentage at the appellate level is definitely, and I think that that's something they're trying to work on. And I hope that, they actually follow through with that. So we'll see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, because it's interesting that I'm running for re-election. Now I want to increase the diversity, and that diversity initiative will last until the election is over. The day after that, we're shutting it down. but that's
Yeah,
another talk that we can have.
Yeah, election time is always an interesting time.
Yes, yes. And you see the rhetoric, and 'cause
Yeah.
you see it on the federal side. We taught that President Biden has did I think 40 judgeships since he's been in.
Right.
And I looked it up in there. There's about 80 openings now on the federal side, all up and down the docket, appeals court, district courts and whatever. And I am one to say that if he doesn't fill them in the next 6 months, they need to make a push, because the minute that the McConnell takes over the Senate, he won't get another one done until the next election.
Please don't say that again. Please don't even speak it into existence. We will have to work hard to make sure that that does not happen. So
that's why they need
out here to vote.
Well, that's another story there that we sat home last time. That's why we have this person that deals with white supremacy or tropes with CRT tree and is your next governor. So, but they need to start working on that, because things are going to change in 22 after the election, because they'll lose the House and the Senate. The Democrats will, and our lives will basically go back to nothing. And so that's another commentary from me.
Yeah, get it in, Colonel. I swear. Get it in.
I had to get it in.
So, and on that, that's one of the things we're going to be doing in 2022. The Colonel, and as well as the rest of the co-hosts, we are Democrats and we lean that way. So we're going to have some people that have opposing opinions about the Republicans or conservatives, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's fair that we bring that conversation to our platform as well, and let Colonel eat them up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a question from one of the watchers on the Facebook, and I don't know if you know this, Alana, but he asked about, do they still read the law in the state of Virginia? I don't know. You're in the state of Maryland, but I think this is over. I don't know if they still do that, but do you know if you can still read the law? And well, for those who might not know, explain what reading the law is.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they still, I've heard that they do. So I don't want to quote what the Virginia Bar is doing currently. Basically reading the law is kind of like apprenticeship rather than doing the traditional way, kind of like I did, where you go to law school for 3 years, you get your and then you sit for the bar exam. I believe California has a similar program that certain people follow as well. I mean, some people take that opportunity, to take the bar exam that way, and you have to get a certain number of hours. You work directly under attorney. They basically train you on the law, you study the law, and then you still have to, even under that program, you still have to sit for the bar exam though. So, I mean, some people take that route. I would never speak against any route that anybody chooses to take. I think it's something beneficial to go to law school. I think if somebody wants to do a non-traditional route, I think, and it's open, if it's possible in Virginia, I think, that's definitely something to consider. Like I said, I have heard from a couple of attorneys that still is the case in Virginia. But I also do know most of the attorneys that I do know in Virginia did kind of go more of the traditional route, where they attended a 3-year institution, got their JD, and then took the bar exam. Because studying all that law, we're really studying for 3 years, and the bar exam is it's a difficult exam, and they test you on every aspect of the law, and Virginia is specific to Virginia. So you need to know Virginia law, and you need to know general principles of the law, across the nation. So just taking that into consideration, if somebody's dedicated enough to self-teach themselves and not go to law school, then I think it's definitely something to consider. But I think it's difficult if you don't have that foundational knowledge that you gain from law school to, take for the bar exam and then prepare to be a practicing attorney after that.
What would you have to do if you also wanted to practice in Virginia? Would you have to take the Virginia bar, or what would you have to do?
Yeah, so for Virginia, it's a commonwealth, and they like to be different often. So We have a uniform bar exam, which I think 38 states have accepted, which is what I took for Maryland. So for the uniform bar exam, I got a score high enough to, transfer to basically any state in the country that accepts the uniform bar exam. But because Virginia likes to be different, they do have a Virginia bar exam. Luckily, because I did take the multiple choice portion and I got a good score on that, I would only have to take the essay portion of the Virginia bar exam, rather than taking the 2-day exam. So I am considering doing that in the future, taking that essay portion, so then being barred in Virginia. But the essay portion is still very serious. It's still a 6-hour day. You have a full day of writing out essays, doing the best you can, trying to be ready for anything, because they can test you on anything. So that's something you have to do. If somebody were to take the bar exam for the first time, they would have 2 6-hour days. And they would have to do the essays the first day, and then they would have to do the multiple choice, which I believe is 200 questions. So they have to be 200 multiple choice questions and then get a certain score to be able to practice in Virginia.
Wow. Then the last question for me, going back to law school and people, students thinking about law school, what choice do you have in following your passion as far as the area you would want to practice once you get your JD? And you mentioned earlier going into public defender or prosecutor's office. And some people go into the prosecutor's office with the idea of being a defender, but they want that experience of prosecution, of the prosecution office. So how much control does a student coming out? And I guess sometimes it happens, sometimes you have to go along with what's available or what the opportunity presents itself. The opportunity that presents itself at the time until you can follow your real passion or whatever area you go in. But how much control would a JD student have? I guess it depends. Huh?
Yeah, it depends. It is basically, or like you said, it's very opportunity based. Like you don't know what openings are going to be available when you graduate, and so many things have changed amid COVID. I was lucky, like I had my job secured, after graduation long before COVID ever hit. And I think a lot of people now in the midst of COVID, they don't know what's going on, in the legal field. Sometimes there's a lot of openings, sometimes there's not. I think you definitely can try to design your path early on. For me, I knew I didn't know which area of law I wanted to practice. So I did a lot of stuff, right? I did criminal, I did the Innocence Project, I did corporate law as well. So I tried a little bit of everything, and then I ultimately ended up going to a corporate firm, which I enjoy being at, and I love the experience I'm gaining. But definitely you can try to make a path, but like somebody told me, I mean, it's going to play out the way it's meant to be. And I think sometimes we say, oh, we got this path, or, we're going this way, and it never plays out exactly that way, but you're going to end up exactly where you're meant to be. And I think that was even the case in my scenario. I went and I did a judicial clerkship, which on an appellate court here in Maryland, which was a great experience. But, I didn't know after that exactly what I was going to be doing. And I ran into the partners at this law firm, and I joined this office, and I've had a great experience, and I'm so happy that I ended up here. But it's very hard to plan. I think you can have an idea of what you want to do, where you want to go. But, I think God kind of puts you where you're supposed.
That's your path. That's right.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is just being prepared. I think that's your biggest law school. Be prepared for the opportunity. So when that opportunity that you're meant to be in presents itself, you're ready for it. So that's I think that's the best advice or the best way for students to focus on what they'll do after law school.
And I really have to commend you being a corporate lawyer and especially early in their career, doing pro bono work. And to me, that's sort of a sign of what your true passion might be down the road. That type of pro bono work you're doing now. But being in the corporate world is also something where you can contribute significantly to our communities. So thank you for that. And kind of winding down, I just want to throw it to co-hosts if they have any last statements or questions for you.
Well, I guess I'll start. I'll beat Leah to the punch. Yes, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing and everything, because you're you're doing a lot for a young lawyer and young lady and everything, and you're doing things to improve our society, and that's the big thing. And so I got to thank you from my heart, and for all those that can't tell you thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep charging ahead, because we need to see young folks out there that look like you. And I see you as, you may not look at the politician, maybe a politician later, or either in a judgeship, because I'd like to see you as a judgeship, because the first judge that I came across when I got into the court system was Slim's dad. And that's another story there. Yeah, when I had to go into the court system. But we need folks looking like you, in both of those scenarios. So keep doing what you're doing, and you'll achieve all the goals and objectives that you have in life. Just remain steady. That's it.
Well, thank you, Colonel. Thank you for keeping it short.
Yes.
Alana, I just want to say you are truly an inspiration. And I encourage that those individuals who are online or on the radio, encourage your young people to come back in and to visit our YouTube page so they can hear all the great words of inspiration that Alana has shared with us. And I tell you what, Paula and Shannon has done an amazing job, and I commend them for such an amazing young lady who's not only willing to advance her career, but to look into helping to repair the lives of those who are less fortunate. So I want to commend you for all that you're doing. And I just want to see you in the higher and greater places that you're going, because you've offered so much in such a short period of time after getting out of law school. And it's just amazing. So just keep up the good works that you're doing. Continue to come back to your hometown of Portsmouth to give back. We do appreciate you so very much. And congratulations on all that you do.
Thank you. And I thank you all for having me. Of course, I don't think there's anybody else I would get up at 6 a.m. for, but I really enjoyed the conversation. I really appreciate talking to you all, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing to come back to Portsmouth, and hopefully, we'll have things to work on. We can talk about some of those reentry initiatives you got going on.
Yes. And maybe you can give us some directions on some of the things that we're doing as well. So
yeah, I'll help out anyway.
We need to collaborate, okay?
Yeah.
So I'd like to give a shout out to Gary Harris, who's one of our
yes, he is
watchers, and he asked some questions. His questions are always pretty in depth, but I encourage you to go on my page and look at the questions he's asked. He's an environmentalist, and there's things as environmental law, and maybe next time you come on, we'll touch on that a little bit. But
James, before you go, also Patsy Cavaness Hines is always watching. Our mentor, Richardson Harris, she said, thanks for bringing quality topics to the community. So we have quite a few people who are watching on Facebook. And once again, I want to stress, if you've missed any of Portsmouth Coffee Talk shows, please go to our YouTube page, Portsmouth Coffee Talk, and subscribe. Invite your friends, Alana, to come on and hear all the great things that you shared with us on this morning. So that is an avenue to rehear everything that was shared this morning.
I will, for sure.
And again, stay with us, as this being our last show of 2021. Wow. Stay with us next year as we come back. And I mentioned earlier, we're going to have some opposing views, and we're going to continue bringing on special guests like our guest today to talk about the issues of today and whatever the topic is that's around the world, United States. And you'll see some different things from Portsmouth Coffee Talk. Like I said, we're going to try to include our audience a little bit more. We figure out how to do that. And we've gotten offers from several people wanting to produce us.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what's out, but I'll be talking to the guy and see, so we can have a much better presentation, but our topics will remain as they has been over the year. And we appreciate you watching, and Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice.
Our community.
In our future.
Oh, Alana, we're gonna have to get you the real cup.
I know.
Alana,
Oh,
The Delta cup right
oh, I
now.
see the Delta cup. We gotta get you a Portsmouth coffee so you can put one in one hand and one in the other hand. How about
I
that?
can
huh?
do that. I
You can do that. Good.
definitely not putting that DST.
No,
cup
can't
in.
put it down. She can't put it down.
And I'm glad you put it up. A salute to your sorors out there.
That's right. And they are watching. Believe me, they are online. They're watching.
Well, again, thanks everyone, and we appreciate it. And Happy New Year to everybody watching. And come back on the 4th, I believe, of the new year. And
it the
we're
4th?
working on it. Yes, and Caroline, I think it's going to be for you. We can have somebody special for you. On the
Oh,
4th.
Lord. Yes. Rumble in the jungle.
And the audience. So you won't want to miss this. I will promote it, and you won't want to miss who this guest possibly will be, and the subjects that we'll probably cover to start the new year off.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thanks again. We appreciate it. And by the way, somebody else named Mayor Glover was watching as well. I
I
guess.
wonder who that could be. Who is Mayor Glover? Do we know that person?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
He sounds familiar.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So take care, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy New
Right.
Year, everyone.
Happy New
Year,
Year.
Lana. Happy New Year. Colonel
New Year.
and James. Happy New Year,
yes.
my
Happy
friend.
New Year.
I love you
New Year.
guys to
Yes.
life.
Same here.
Okay.
Like you said, Leah, it was an interesting year.
It has been an interesting year. You need
But
to go
we
back and watch those conversations.
Oh, I go back and do that, and I said, "Wow, that was a good subject." You know,
Yes.
I must say myself. So, we're going to continue, and
Yeah.
a little bit more for you. So, thanks
Yeah.
again.
Thanks
And God
again,
bless you.
Alana
Yeah.
Glover.
Bye. Bye,
Attorney
everyone.
Glover. Have a great day and a great year.
You too.
By the way, Dan Harris.
Hold on one second, Miss Glover, before you go. Don't go away all the way.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Dan Harris sent you a hello from a Q. He's a Q.
Oh, hello from a Q. Okay.
Yes, that's Q brothers, fraternity brothers.
Mhm. Yeah, represented this morning.
So,
Okay.
okay, so let me stop us. And once again, Happy New Year to everyone who is listening. God bless.